You're a part of the resistance.
If you go to Google and search Star Wars Resistance iTunes, this podcast is the second search result. Welcome back to the Resistance broadcast, everybody. I'm John Hoey. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful Monday. Star Wars Resistance, the show, is out. I'm sure a lot of you have already watched it. We're going to talk about it a little bit here in a little bit. But first, let's say hello to our Resistance crew, James Bainey and Lacey Gillerin. What's going on, guys?
That's second under Star Wars Rebels on iTunes, which is the main top result, which is kind of cool considering it doesn't even have the word resistance in it, but they still stuck it up there. It's probably an ad.
We talked about this before like 5 minutes ago, and I still got it wrong.
No. It's still the... Oh, my gosh. You were right. It's still the first... That was still the first one, and we're the second.
But
okay,
how
I'll
cool
take
is it that we're on Spotify, though?
Yeah.
That's cooler to me, personally.
Yeah, I like. It's funny because I showed that to my brother and like some of my friends, and they're like, "You're on Spotify? Congrats!" Like we got it picked.
I use Spotify like 22 of the 24 hours of the day.
It's because
So
they
it's
finally
Hey, it's
figured
Lacey.
out.
I forgot to say my name. Hey, what's up?
Yeah, they finally figured out how to make it easy for podcasters to get their stuff on the program. It was always like a nightmare.
Well, don't make it sound
that.
like that.
Well,
Yeah, we have to be special.
Come on, James.
Yeah.
We're accomplished. We worked hard to get on Spotify.
I
Right.
mean, we did. We worked.
Not any
really
podcast
hard.
can get on Spotify.
Yeah, James. Okay, I'm ready
I actually
to talk
listened
about Star
to-
Wars.
I listened to our latest episode on Spotify. Was it yesterday morning or whatever? And it's just so easy. And then it starts the next one right away. It's pretty cool.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, yeah, it's just cool to be part of another platform. So, hello, Spotify from the Resistance broadcast. We're here.
Woohoo!
How are you?
Yo.
All right, so to Spotify and wherever else you're listening to this, you probably know by now that we do poll results at the start of our show. And we had asked you this past week, do you think Poe Dameron will die in Star Wars Episode 9? And this wasn't even close, unfortunately. But 20% said yes. So 20% of the fans out there are a little morbid about our ace pilot. And 80% said no Dameron. Poe Dameron is not dying in Episode 9. What do you guys think about the results? Did you think they'd be that skewed? And what do you think about the question?
I thought more skewed than that. I'm actually kind of surprised that 20% of people... it's not even 20% of people. It's 20% of like specific Star Wars fans that follow our podcast and pay attention to us still are on the fence, and they're like, I don't know. I think he's gone. 20%. That's high in my opinion. So I think it's actually closer. I mean, I think it's more like a 50-50 thing than I thought it would have been. I thought it would have been more like 3%.
Wow.
Well, it took a lot of time to make all those accounts to get it to 20%. So he's definitely dying in Episode 9.
Wow. Now,
Sorry,
Lacey,
guys.
do you say that because they were originally going to kill him in The Force Awakens?
Actually, no, that's not why I said it. I'm trying to remember what episode it was. It was probably like last week.
Probably 7.
These all like blur together.
Just kidding.
No, episode of our show, James.
I know. I'm
When
teasing.
we were actually talking about this last week, I genuinely think that he might die. I mean, he's one of those characters that like it would suck, but I could see him doing it for the greater good.
So it's not like you don't like hate Oscar Isaac.
No,
and
I
don't
love
want
him,
to
and I love Poe too.
Okay.
Poe's a great character. I think they actually underdeveloped him in the movies, but
Me too.
I don't know. I just think he's going to be one of those people that's going to be a casualty to the bigger story.
All right.
And I'm no Dameron on that. There's no way those three characters don't walk out alive. Finn, Rey, Poe.
Oh, I was going to say
Do I have
Finn, Rey, Kylo. Yeah, they're going to be fine.
No way.
So we have a happy Yub-Nub ending coming from Camp Baney. I dig it. I'm not sure where I am on that. I think I voted that he's not going to die. I may have voted that he is going to die. I forget what mood I was in that day. But I don't know. We'll find out. But our best comment went to Spooky Sarah at Sarah Sahim. And she said, I'm part of the team that takes the Poe Dameron number 31 comic opening a little too literally. Quote, there was a pilot. His name was Poe. And we will miss him when he goes.
I told you guys this. This is what I brought up last week. And you guys were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, the comics, guys. Yeah.
Well, when Spooky Sarah says it, I listen, Lacey. I don't know what to tell you.
Thanks for being on my side, Sarah.
So, yeah, thank you guys for participating in that poll. We'll fire up another one today or tomorrow or something like that. But now, because we actually have some good news to talk about, depending on what type of fan you are, it is the Resistance Report. Mr. Baney, what's cooking?
It's the Resistance.
What's cooking is a little Mando soup. We got Jon Favreau. A little Mando soup. That's Campbell's. Jon Favreau, who we've known for a long time, is working on a TV series for the streaming service of Disney. Actually took to Twitter the other day, surprisingly, kind of out of nowhere, and he dropped a single image that had basically the title of the show and the synopsis of his show, and it read, The Mandalorian. After the stories of Jango and Boba Fett, another warrior emerges in the Star Wars universe. The Mandalorian is set after the fall of the Empire and before the emergence of the First Order. We follow the travails of a lone gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic. So we'll get into a little bit of what happened after that, but I just want to talk for a second on The Mandalorian and the synopsis. Now, I threw out a tweet from a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the possibility of Jon Favreau's show being about Mandalore, and I heard a lot of Mandabore from you two. I will say this before we get into some more of the news. He did also put out a picture. He put out one picture
Yes.
The following day of what this is going to look like. Does any of this seem interesting now? Painted in a little light? It's more real, more tangible? Lacey, what do you think?
Yeah, so first of all, he posted this to Instagram, which was very interesting in itself because he does have Twitter and Instagram, but he posted this description to Instagram. And then the picture was released by StarWars.com the following day with more information. But it was just like one of those things that I was like, all right, we kind of talked about this a couple weeks ago, if not a month ago, where James, you had thought that there were rumblings of it being a Mandalorian show, and John and I were just like, Mandabore.
We were trying to shoot down rumors that there was a possibility of it being this, and I said,
right,
I
there were like
hope
rumblings.
it is. Yeah.
Yes, you were all for it. I was like, buh, and John was, I honestly
Verbatim.
still stand by that statement. I don't find Boba Fett exciting. That's just me. Everybody has their own opinions about things. Am I going to watch it? Absolutely. Am I going to love it? Most likely. But yeah, I mean, that description doesn't really do anything for me. All I know is that when people read that description, they were like, Jango and Boba are Mandalorians, and everyone's like, we get it, we know. They're just saying that.
But does Jon Favreau know?
Yes, he knows. He knows.
But does Kathleen Kennedy know?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I think anything that tells a story about new characters, I'm super excited for, because I'd love to branch out from what we know. And there's just this whole universe that hasn't been explored yet. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
All right, John, I'm going to ask you this question. The picture that was released, it also kind of talked a little bit more about how this guy is kind of a gunslinger, his own, authority. Do you think that the show...
They didn't say guy or girl. They just said warrior.
Yeah.
To be clear.
Do you think that this show, even though it's called The Mandalorian, do you really think it's going to be about like his history or his culture? Because if he's just kind of like wild westing it, do you think that is more of the thing that's going to get people interested in the show? Like, it's not so much about the planet. It's more about like, oh, he's just a Mandalorian in the wild west kind of thing.
When I think about it, I try to make comparisons to like Man of Steel, Superman. Like, I'm not into it when they're on Krypton, and then when Krypton gets destroyed and he's the only one left and he becomes Superman, then I'm all aboard and like, let's start that story. That's how I kind of feel about this. Like, and I'll admit right now, I don't know in this timeline, 3-4 years after Return of the Jedi, what the status of Mandalore is. Is that confirmed? Do we know?
No.
Exactly what we don't. Okay.
I don't believe so.
So I'd like to think that it was obliterated or something. And that he's the last, beacon or from that civilization in some way. I think that would be interesting because my whole thing with Star Wars is not about the politics and the space fighting and stuff. It's all about the people. And I'd be interested to know. And I know Favreau's great at developing characters and making you care about them. So he's going to make us care about this guy, whether he's a bad guy, a good guy, or girl. You're right, Lacey. We have no idea. It's just easier to say that than person or human.
Sure, of course.
They.
I just know
no
someone
offense out there.
somewhere is going to say, well, we don't know. And they'd be right. We don't know. It could be a guy.
Yeah, no offense there.
I'm actually kind of leaning towards that it would be a female because I just feel like they would do that.
Yeah, could be. Yeah. But it is, it wasn't my pick, and only from a logical standpoint. And I give Disney and Lucasfilm credit for taking a chance on this because the people who are going to be sold, come by our streaming service and they're going to be like, we have a new Star Wars show. And as we've talked about on this podcast, they're going to be like, oh, okay, where's Luke? Where's Yoda? Where's Vader? And it's going to be like, no, it's called The Mandalorian. And they're going to be like, what the hell is that? Is that Boba Fett? Okay. Or, no, it's not Boba Fett. Oh, geez. Well, I don't know.
See, I'm a little.
So it's a chance. It's a chance they're taking for the people outside of the Star Wars bubble to get them in, and I give them credit for that. And ultimately, I think I personally will like it, but I'm curious how the wide net of Star Wars fans will embrace it.
I actually think like that's the kind of the crazy understanding of the scenario. I would say that it's not risky, like doing something The Mandalorian and doing a character that's very Boba Fett-ish. Is the easiest way to get the casual Star Wars fan to be like, oh, dude, yeah, of course, absolutely, that looks awesome. I think that if they were going to be bold about it, they would just do kind of like a Rian Johnson thing, like, yeah, it just doesn't have anything to do with anything, And I think this definitely does, like calling it The Mandalorian. People have associated Mandalorians to Boba Fett for the longest time, and he's probably like one of the strongest non-main characters that casual fans are aware of.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, like, because of the rumors that kept getting put out there by MSW, I feel like he was forced to release this early. I don't think they had intentions of doing this, and they were like, Jesus, all these things keep coming out, like we have to say something just to stop the bleeding here.
Yeah, I think that is also true as well. Kind of one of those. There was something else really big that came out where it was like stuff started getting leaked, and then they did like the full trailer like the next day. I can't remember what it was. I want to say,
yeah, I mean, that's happened.
It was Captain Marvel, but it was something like that where they were just like, dude, we can't hold this any longer. It's got to come out. And then it forced their hand. Man, what was it?
Well, at San Diego a couple years ago.
DC movie or something?
Yeah, so San Diego a couple years ago, Suicide Squad leaked.
That's right.
And Deadpool leaked, so they had to put them out.
Yeah, I think it was Deadpool that I'm thinking of, but
that's really changed the landscape of pop culture events and Comic-Con events and trade shows to the point that now they have that stuff planned. So as soon as they play the trailer, they play it on the internet. It's like immediately simultaneous. at the same time.
So if anybody missed that other episode, I absolutely love this idea. I think this is like the perfect show. I think it's going to be really cool, really awesome, and I think they have a really good opportunity, meaning the time frame, meaning the characters, and it looks like he's in kind of like a desolate Tatooine type area. So I think they can really open the door to telling long form stories with this character and the world that he's getting ready to enter. So I think this is like a genius move on their part. This is what they should be doing.
I think it's like, and you were saying you don't think it's a risk. I think it's a sort of a risk instead of doing the obvious, subscribe to everyone would subscribe and take it type of thing. So on the easy end would be like, here's a series about Darth Vader killing Jedi before the events of A New Hope. And then on the other end, like you're saying, Rian Johnson or like Dave Filoni, a story about like turtles and that don't know about the Force and stuff, like crazy weird lore stuff. And then in the middle you have this type of thing. So I think it's like kind of a happy medium there, risk but familiar.
I think he definitely falls like under the category of like if the show was about Luke or Leia or Han or Darth Vader or Yoda or something like that. Even Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like I feel like all of those being like main major pivotal characters, like anything below that would be like the secondary characters. You know what I'm saying? Boba Fett.
Yeah, right.
Maybe even something like Chewbacca, because I think that would just be a tough show to sell.
It's just your lead character doesn't even speak English.
Yeah, you're like, I think that could be kind of cool, but I wouldn't watch 10 episodes of that. But anyway.
Yeah. Do you think this is going to be more than one season? Or do you think it's going to be one and done 8 episode type of thing and then move on to like the next one and they bring in someone else?
Oh, that's a good question, because I think fans would, once they see it, they're going to want like 5 seasons of it. But I think that usually, I would imagine that Lucasfilm is like, we have so many stories we want to tell. Like, I don't know. I could maybe see like 2 or 3 seasons maybe, because it's going to be popular, I think. I don't think it's going to be a big failure.
It's going to be good. We know that. Favreau kills it.
Can we talk about the directors, though? So
yeah,
I don't know if this is... There were 5 directors announced, and does that mean that each of them are doing 2 episodes, or some are doing 1 and others are doing 3? Because we know there's 10 episodes, but the 5 directors that were announced were Dave Filoni.
I thought it was 8. It's 10 episodes?
I thought it was 10 episodes. Is it?
I think it's 10.
Oh,
I thought it was 10. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to check that. But Dave Filoni is announced. Deborah Chow. Rick Famuyiwa. Is that right? Famuyiwa?
Yep, he's from Dope, and then she was from Jessica Jones.
Yeah. Well, okay. We'll get into that in a second. Bryce Dallas Howard and Taika Waititi. So, of these 5 directors, I think most Star Wars fans are obviously, they know Dave Filoni from Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars. And then Deborah Chow, she actually she's associated with Jessica Jones, but she's only directed 1 episode of Jessica Jones. But if you look at like her filmography, she's done 1 episode of like a ton of shows you would recognize. So she's actually got a pretty good track record for doing television. I don't know why she's associated with Jessica Jones specifically, because I thought
probably
there were other shows.
Probably because it's a Disney property.
Yeah, that could be. But Dope, in my opinion, is great. So I'm excited to have him on board. And Bryce Dallas Howard actually hasn't directed a whole lot, couple made-for-TV stuff. And then Taika Waititi, obviously, people know from Thor Ragnarok and From Out of the Shadows. Is that what it's called? Yeah. But what do you guys think of this diverse cast of directors here? John, what do you think?
Well, I was pretty vocal on Friday in a tweet about it because, all the naysayers over the past year getting mad every time, even when Favreau got announced that he was making the series, people were angry. And it turns out his series is the one that's going to break the door open and have its first female director. So it's kind of ironic. I think it's great. I also don't think it's that like big of a deal, and I don't mean that to discredit the directors. What I mean is like when I watch a TV show, I usually don't tell the difference who directed an episode here. Like if I saw the directed episode of Breaking Bad that Rian Johnson did, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, that's the Rian Johnson episode. I could pick that out of a lineup. But I think it's great because it shows that, you know, they had a plan, and it's just because they wanted to announce it on their terms and not yours. People need to remember that. Like, Kathleen Kennedy's not stupid. Bob Iger's not stupid. They know what they're doing, and they're not tone deaf. So hopefully that kind of calms that or ends that whole thing going forward. So for that alone, I think it's great, and I'm excited to see what these people bring to the table. Pretty cool.
Yep. I agree with that. I did want to mention too that it is kind of interesting. We were talking earlier about the Mandalorian possibly being female. So you bring in 2 female directors, and Dave Filoni is also praised for doing work with, like, Sabine, for instance. I know that around the 3rd season of Rebels, people were saying, I don't really care about Ezra anymore. I really want to follow Sabine. She should be the main character of the show. So her story was really getting told in that. Lacey, what do you think about all these directors coming in here?
I think it's awesome. I think having people with diverse voices and perspectives and bringing different things to the table is always great. I think all of these people are so creative and so accomplished that it's really, really cool to have them be a part of Star Wars. There's something really nice. It's like going back home to know that Dave Filoni's doing the first episode. You feel like it's like in good hands, sure. And you know, he's gonna know James, a lore fan. He's all about lore and stuff like that. So I feel like he'll work that into the story and set up to hand it off to someone else. I'm super pumped about Taika only because he has a really good sense of humor, and I loved Thor Ragnarok. I haven't laughed that hard at a movie in like a really long time. So I'm super pumped for him to be a part of the Star Wars show stuff. I really want him to direct a Star Wars movie, but maybe this is that first step.
One thing I want to mention too, and correct me if I'm wrong, so shoot me down here. John, you were mentioning how the directors generally don't really have that much to do in a TV show. It's more the showrunner. I don't usually.
He's saying you wouldn't
be
able to pick out their work because you do have a director of photography.
Like you, James, you may be more director inclined and know how certain people shoot things because you guys do video. I don't, so I just see the characters doing their thing. That's more on me. Just
okay.
You know.
So then here's what I'm saying is that a director on a TV show generally is not as important as the showrunner. When you start to think of things like how they would shoot it, well, they're still a cinematographer. What's the story they're going to tell? Well, they didn't write it. They didn't write that episode. You know what I mean? When Taika Waititi...
But they might give input, though. That's the thing. Is like they might have the story in front of them that was written by someone else, but they might add a scene or add a certain way
I don't
that
think
it's being
that's the
shot
case.
Or stuff like that.
I think what you're going to get out of it is you're going to say, this is the shot we have planned, and they might change up the camera angle or do something different with it. And then I think the best thing they're going to get out of it is the performance of the actor. They're going to say, you're not giving me the line like I want it. Do it more like this. I think that's what you're going to get, because when you get to that episode, that 5th episode of The Mandalorian, it doesn't immediately turn into Thor Ragnarok. It is not going to start to get funny.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't mean he's not going to have a cool perspective different than everybody else.
It could be. It could be. And you might be able to see a little bit of his flavor. Yeah, I get that.
Episodes 1 through 4, Lacey's all like solemn face, like this is cool, this is badass.
Yeah.
Episode 5, she's like,
yeah.
Oh man.
There's crazy colors.
6, she's like,
then again, I don't know. I mean, maybe they did. Maybe they got a little bit more input, and you're going to be able to tell right away which episodes were very, like Thor Ragnarok inspired, or something like that was the thing.
James,
people were talking about Filoni, like, he's going to put all this extra like deep cut stuff in there. And I was like, is he? He's not writing it.
But at the same time, you're not going to give Dave Filoni a jokey episode, and you're not going to give Taika a very serious episode.
Well,
if you're thinking of it
strategically,
you're going to give someone the fun episode that's fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's
also like when I was watching Solo, I wasn't like, that's a Ron Howard movie. I could point that out anywhere. That's just like Backdraft. I can tell.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think
a
lot of people were doing that. They were looking for the Lord and Miller.
No, I wasn't. That's
scenes,
what I'm saying.
There is one other thing that I wanted to talk about the Mandalorian, and that's that production has begun. I'm just excited in general to knowing that right now they're in the process of making this television show. And it's one of the things that, like, I know we're talking about it right now, but like people aren't even thinking about that. There's live action Star Wars being shot right now, and everybody's really waiting for episode 9. And right now, like, somewhere in the world, there's a Mandalorian walking around blasting fools.
Yeah, the other thing to remember too is that they're not skimping on this TV show. The New York Times reported that they're spending almost $10 million an episode, which Game of Thrones is about that budget as well. It might end up being like the most expensive TV show ever created.
Yeah. And
so it's not going to be like sci-fi Sharknado graphics or like Doctor Who 2001 graphics. Like, we're talking like full-fledged. They're going all
Are
for
you
it.
trying to tell me that Tara Reid is not going to be in The Mandalorian? Because if she's not, I'm not seeing it.
You're out. That's your out.
I'm
That's
out.
it. That's all it takes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, they're not
that's
making any more
impressive.
American Pies. Come on, I need my Tara Reid fix.
Yeah, but I always get nervous about TV shows because obviously they don't have the big budgets of movies, but the fact that they're giving this show the big budget means you're going to see full sets, full costumes. You're going to see all the special effects. Like, I'm just super pumped about that.
Jetpacks,
Jetpacks,
right?
Yeah, I think it's very possible. We've seen Mandalorians fly around before, and
We fly right into the side of a sail barge, man.
those weren't the ones I was talking about, but that's true. That one does have a jetpack as well. Barely uses it. All right, guys, let's talk about something else. Something else that went down this weekend that everybody on this podcast, except for me, got to participate in, and that is New York Comic Con. Woo! It was really fun twiddling my thumbs at home, though, refreshing my Twitter feed.
Well,
James,
it's not
in the
like John and
words-
I were together, so it wasn't
Right.
really you were.
James, in the words of Meatloaf, don't be sad, because 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
In the words of Meatloaf, I can't do that.
We're definitely the only Star Wars podcast to talk about Meatloaf.
Yes.
I can almost guarantee that.
He used to live in my hometown, fun fact.
Oh, cool.
Oh.
Okay, so there was some stuff that happened at New York Comic Con, and I kind of want to toss it to you guys on this one. 2 major events, right? Lacey covered one, and John covered one, right?
I would say so, yeah. Like 2 major things. There were like sprinklings of cool news here and there, but probably the 2 big ones were Hasbro's reveal, which they then revealed more stuff over the weekend, but that and probably the publishing panel, which John went to on Friday. Yes. So Thursday, I was lucky enough to go to the Hasbro Roundtable. And I didn't really know what to expect because I went to the breakfast at San Diego and they really didn't show anything new. It was all stuff that was out. They were really focusing more on Transformers and Bumblebee specifically. So when I walked into this hotel room and there's all these little black boxes everywhere, I was like, okay, what is going on? But they told us some really cool stuff. So they have more FX sabers, which we had talked about. I believe last week we were kind of wondering if those were ever, they're going to make more of those. They are. The Mace one, Mace Windu is really cool. It's super bright compared to all the other ones. Like I have 2 and it's not as bright as the Mace Windu one.
Did they ever make a Mace Windu before, Lacey? Is this the first Mace Windu they've made?
It is. So they showed the concepts for these sabers at San Diego, but these were the first times that they were actually in front of people completed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Mace Windu's is really cool. It's obviously like that magenta fuchsia color with the hilt is gold. It's like, it reminded me kind of like Donald Glover's gun in Solo. Like it was like over the top, like fancy. And then you
Does it say bad MF on it?
No, it didn't. It didn't.
I think his actually was inscribed with that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Did it? Do you think it said it in English or was it like Arabish?
Arabish.
Because they had it at the time, I think, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I have no
He had already done the special editions at that point, so.
All right, sorry, Lacey.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Derail.
So then Darth Maul's saber was really cool, which we had just talked about, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And Steve had mentioned, who's the director of design and development for Star Wars Hasbro line. He had mentioned that the connector allows you to connect two lightsabers together, whether it be Darth Maul's or any of the other FX sabers. So immediately, like, my fangirl brain went to, like, oh my god, that must mean Rey's gonna have two lightsabers, and this must mean episode 9. But they never said that. That's just me being crazy. And then they had Anakin's, which was really cool. They also had the weapon that was used against Finn in The Force Awakens. It's that thing that shoots out...
Nines.
What?
Yeah,
Something
the
Nines
character's
had.
Nines.
Yes.
What was his name before that? TR-8R?
He's the one that's like, traitor!
Yeah, TR-8R. Traitor.
Yeah.
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 Which was super cool as well. The big thing were obviously the Black Series figures, and they were the first thing they announced were Star Wars Archive figures, which were figures that people had really wanted on eBay or wanted to purchase and can't find them. So they actually looked on eBay and saw which ones were the most popular and decided to re-release them. So they're re-releasing Yoda, they're re-releasing the Biker Scout, and then Anakin from the prequels. The new figures, which I was so proud to have guessed because the listeners and Star Wars Newsnet fans had asked them at San Diego if they would do a General Grievous, and Steve kind of gave me the, oh, well, we're considering it, and like sneaky, he was actually making it. So when he announced like, oh, this is one people really want, I was like, oh, I know what it is. He's like, really? And I was like, in my head, I'm going, please be right. Please don't be that person that like says something and it's totally wrong. But no, it's General Grievous. It's super cool. The arms actually come off the figure, and I think you can connect them to the other arms.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he can have 2 arms or 4 arms if you split
Right.
them. Yeah.
Right. And it also has a double-sided cape, so it has 2 different colors on the cape, which is part of the reason it took so long, amongst other things. It's a little bit pricier than the other stuff, so it's going to have a price point, I believe, of $29.99.
Yeah.
And then they made the Obi-Wan from Clone Wars. I'm going to mess up this guy's name. Tarkovsky? It's the Clone Wars before Dave Filoni's Clone Wars.
Yeah, because I saw that and I recognized him, but I was
Yeah.
like, that's not a canon Kenobi. So, and then I heard him talk about it was like a Legends version of Kenobi or something like that. Yeah.
So it's the Clone Wars before Dave Filoni's Clone Wars, and they took the outfit that he wears, General Kenobi wears. But it's got the head of Kenobi in the prequels. So it's got that photorealistic face. Other than that, they have some other vintage figures coming out. I'm trying to think of what else they said. They have
the
Yoda
Resistance
mask, obviously.
characters as well.
Oh, yep. Resistance characters. They have 3.75 characters coming out for Resistance. They're all super detailed. One of the characters, I'm blanking on her name right now, with the buns. She actually comes with 2 heads because they couldn't get the buns into a helmet. So they give you the helmet head as well as the one with her hair.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So those are going to come out in the spring of 2019 because they're waiting for the show to come out, which it's out now. Yay. And then other than that, I did ask. So I was a little crazy, and I went up to Steve and I said, hey, man, so when we spoke over the summer for San Diego, I asked you about episode 9, and you had said that you were already in production for that or the early phases. And he had said, yes, I know, yes. And I said, okay, so now that that's underway, have you gotten stills from the movie? And he said, yes, we have. And I said, so, like, I know I can't ask you what the stills are, but, like, what vibe are you getting from the movie? And he just laughed, and he goes, you know I can't tell you that. And I was just like, okay, well, is it a good vibe? And he was just like, absolutely. He's like, people are going to be so happy with this movie. Like, we're so excited to be working on it. But he kind of, like, laughed, and then he winked at me and was like, it's going to be good. So that's your episode 9 spoiler-free excitement.
Yeah, for sure, spoiler free.
Yeah.
Because he
then
literally said nothing.
Yeah.
I also saw some like the Chewbacca mom mask, but it was a Yoda one.
And he wants a Yoda dad. Yep.
So the Yoda mask, does it sounded like it was he doing the lines, or was the mask actually talking?
The
Like,
mask does the lines. So when you open the mouth, it does the lines.
So it was like goofy Yoda when Luke first meets him? Because
Yes.
it sounded like
It's like,
that's-
ha 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 ha. Yeah.
That's cool. All right.
You got to
That's
get
cool.
one now that you're a dad. You could be Yoda
I have
dad.
yeah, well I'll probably scare the crap out of my kid. He'll be like, who is that?
But it was really fun. They were
very cool.
super nice. Thank you so much, Hasbro, for having me. It was a good time. It was interesting to see other fan groups there and like other sites. I was the only girl in the room, which there was like a pride with that for me, at least, that I was like, yeah, I'm here. But yeah, it was cool. Other than that, I walked around Artist Alley. I took a picture in the Resistance plane.
Yeah, I was so
I know
jealous
it's
of
not a
that.
plane. I'm going to get correct on that, whatever. The spaceship. So,
Yeah, it's funny
The
'cause-
fireball.
yes,
Yeah,
Fireball. Yep.
Fireball. As far as my experience, I covered 2 panels. One was Our Star Wars Stories, which is the YouTube, not YouTube, but the StarWars.com series about fandom. And it involves people from the founder of the 501st to people who have been longtime fans of the show whose lives were affected by the saga, to droid builders, to all different types of people. And there's going to be 5 episodes in this first season, and it's going to be out in the next couple of weeks. So it was a cool panel. It seems like something that can really unite fandom, because we all hide behind the wall of like, yeah, we're Star Wars fans, but we forget that, we're all people and there's reasons why we like this franchise. And I think it's going to hit on that pretty well. And then the big panel was the publishing panel. I was going to put this in my rundown, but I'll skip the rundown this week. Basically, the announcements, they revealed the cover for the Claudia Gray book for Master and the Apprentice with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan.
Very cool.
Yep, Obi-Wan's got his little pony nub again. Pretty cool.
I hate it.
And then also Vader 25 is going to be the last of the Vader series, which people were upset about. But they revealed that Vader's coming back in a 5-issue series by Chuck Wendig at the end of this year or around January or so, where it's called, I have it here, Shadow of Vader. And it's going to be other people's perspectives on how Vader affected them in one way or another.
That's kind of
So
cool.
it almost
I really like
it almost
that.
sounds like
It's
from a
cool
certain
because
point of
it's-
view.
No, it sounded
that
like
book-
how we thought the Solo was going to be when they like
Solo?
mention Vader or mention Palpatine. Like,
Yeah,
oh, we don't want to go
yeah.
into that area. That's Vader's territory. I heard a story
Right.
about that Vader guy. That's how they would bring in Vader into Solo or something. It didn't happen, but that's what it immediately reminded me of, is us discussing Solo.
To me, it reminded me of some of the stories from the short story book from a certain point of view, because that story, but you get it from someone else's vantage point. So we may see a scene that we know from Star Wars, and it may be, someone was a fly on the wall watching that happen, and that's their perspective on it. Like, I saw him cut that old man, and he disappeared into the floor. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, it was absolutely crazy.
Imagine if
and
we
then-
get like someone from like the main cast's point of view.
I didn't take it
Like-
that way. I thought it was going to be like totally random stories. Like one time
It's not.
I heard that Vader came down here and killed these people. They're all from like stories that we've already heard.
It's how Vader affected people, things he did. So it's they were affected by
Yeah.
something he did.
Yeah,
so it's
he's
not
done
like
a lot of
I
stuff
heard
that we
about.
haven't heard that story of.
Yeah, but it's not. I heard the legend of Darth Vader. It's Darth Vader did something and it affected me directly.
I'm just
Yeah,
curious
I know,
if
but
we
I'm
get,
saying
like,
it's
how
like a
Leia feels about
Soliston.
him.
Like,
It could be. It very well
Yeah.
could be. It's only 5 issues though,
yeah.
so I'm not sure.
Fair enough.
And then the other thing is, which I think is going to be a huge novel, pretty hyped, is the Alphabet Squadron, which has Rebel pilots after the fall of the Empire and the destruction of the second Death Star, after Return of the Jedi, hunting down Imperials. So it's flipping the script where the hunted are becoming the hunters. Pretty interesting. So I'd be curious to see what type of pilots these characters are and that sort of thing. I'm sure it's going to be different people than we know. So it's not going to be like Wedge Antilles all of a sudden becoming a badass, just like trying to hunt down and kill people. But that was a really cool panel. There's a lot more stuff coming. So we covered it all, live tweeted it on Star Wars Newsnet, and Kyle Larson and Val put together the article for us too. So go to Star Wars Newsnet to get all the upcoming publishing stuff out of Lucasfilm.
The
And
Alphabet
then
Squadron thing is really interesting to me because it plays back into that theme that we've been talking about the past few months of like, who really is the bad guy? And it plays into that Last Jedi theme too of like when Finn's talking to DJ and he's like, the good and the bad, like they're buying weapons, you're buying weapons, they're hunting you, you're hunting them, you're fighting each other type thing. And I think that plays right into it, that there's no necessarily good side of war because people always get affected. It always makes me think of Hunger Games, because that novel's basically that idea of like, no matter who you are, you get affected by war. And I think that this is going to be an interesting take on that, because there's no way you can paint hunting down other people in a good light. So
yeah, what about something, say, like hunting down Nazis?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm saying, though, is that, yes, that's terrible. There's no way to explain that. I'm saying that given the situation, sometimes people get put into bad positions, like being a part of... So like Han Solo. Han Solo's not a bad guy, but he signed up because he was trying to survive. So I'm interested to see if that's the way they're going to paint this, or are they going to paint it like they are really bad people?
Well, also it's just, from one angle, it's just kind of like, well, we told all these stories in this era. How else can we tell these stories other than
from one side? How about
almost
the other side?
flipping this? Yeah, let them be the aggressors now. So I get that. So it is interesting, and I think that one is going to be a big hit. But of course, also you have Claudia Gray, who's everyone's favorite author right now, with that Hester and Apprentice novel coming up too. And then as far as I wasn't there very long, so I obviously have the newborn at home, so I walked around and that sort of thing, and checked out some of the old action figures and that sort of stuff. And then I scooted out of there. But those are the big things we covered at New York Comic Con, and it was cool.
There
Hope you guys
wasn't a ton
enjoyed
of
the coverage.
Star Wars stuff, but I mean, we're getting into almost 6-month territory of celebration, so I'm sure that stuff's
they're going to start to go fall off the radar a little bit until they go, well, why would we announce that now? Let's wait 3 months and just make everybody's money worth it and make Celebration like the place to go to get all the details all at once, because there's actual cash involved in that.
And there's 5 days to fill.
Yeah, exactly. So we are probably going to go dark for a little while. Not the show necessarily, but dark in news. Before we move on to our last section of the show, Ask the Resistance, I do want to talk a little bit about the regular Resistance, Star Wars Resistance, that has officially aired now. Yeah. And we did not all... Lacey, you didn't get a chance to check out the episodes yet, have you? But me and John both have seen the first 3 as they were released. Lacey, so your opinions are probably the same as you said before. John, has your opinion changed? What's the vibe you're getting from the show?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's cool. I don't like that the nerdy alien character. Mm-hmm. He really bothers me just how literal he is with everything. I'm just like, all right, I get it. Like,
yeah, I think they're doing a metaphors Drax type thing.
It's like a Drax thing, or like even C-3PO in A New Hope when he's I don't think I can do that. Yeah, shutting up, sir. But other than that, it's pretty on the nose. And Lacey, I don't want to spoil it for you, but you kind of nailed it in terms of the tone of some of the voices.
Can I tell you a funny story? So on New York Comic Con show floor, I was standing in front of the Resistance display with the Fireball, and they had the TVs up playing the trailer, and I was standing there with my friend Elliot, and he was like, so what do you think of the show? And I was like, it's got that kitty sound to it, like the enthusiastic, like, I'm gonna be an ace pilot. And he starts laughing. Legit 2 seconds later, a character in the trailer goes, I'm going to be an ace pilot. And we both just burst out laughing because it's that tone,
Yeah, James, it reminded me of, I get a Speed Racer vibe from it. That's kind of where what it reminds me of a little bit. Yeah. But it was fun. I do want to see, every time I saw the First Order ships, I got excited. So I want to see more of that side, hopefully. Just seeing a TIE fighter zoom to a couple of Star Destroyers always gets me. It's an easy sell for me. So I'm excited to see where that goes, and also some more cameos too. But from what I've seen so far, I like it better than I thought I would. But I don't think it's going to stretch the story of Star Wars very much for us. And I don't think it has to. But pretty cool. Better effects than I thought too. Or animation, I should say.
Yeah, I've come around on the animation a little bit. I think that I'm starting to see the merits of it. I know that it definitely looks like super sharp, like very HD, and that it makes the show really pop and make you feel like this is like the most current Star Wars you can get, which is really cool. The thing about the show is I think that at the end of it, when the show's all said and done, a lot of people will be like, I don't know, you could go back and watch Clone Wars or Rebels. I don't know if this is necessary viewing, but there's some really cool stuff in there. They'll mention, but there's some really cool stuff in there. I didn't love all of it, but some of it's pretty cool. And I think that's the overall vibe we're going to get from the show. Right now, I think I was leaning one way that it was going to be super kiddie, and I've kind of pulled back a little bit, and the show, in reality, for me, at least these first 3 episodes, landed exactly there. I was like, okay, it's pretty, like, it's aimed at kids, but, like, I think, like, if I continue to watch this show, I'm going to care about these characters, whether, like, if one of them were killed for whatever reason, I'd be like, oh, that sucks. I wouldn't be like, who cares? But I will say, I've watched all 3 episodes twice, but I can't stay focused on it. I think that maybe is because it's not my demographic. It's not.
It could still be the intro to the series. Really, they're not really getting into the meat yet. But
yeah.
Did you notice the Force theme variation?
No, I didn't.
So it's like starts like like it's the first 3 notes are the same, and you think it's gonna be the Force theme as they walk to a horizon. Then it does a different variation of it. I'm like, you better not use the Force theme. This kid's not a Force user. Don't use the Force theme.
Yeah, they've done that with Clone Wars and with Rebels as well, like dun, 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 kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What was your take on? Sorry, Lacey's like, I didn't say it yet.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
When they
We're trying to stay non-spoilery.
When they fell from the pirate's ship and landed into like those metal crates, they fell like 300 feet, and they were like, oh, okay, let me get up and dust myself off. So I'm like, so the continuity on how these people can get injured was very Looney Tune to me. So that bothered me a little bit too. But again, a kid show, whatever. But
yeah, I think that's just going to come with the territory. Like, there was another thing.
Hey kids, jump off your roof. You'll be fine.
In one of the episodes, there's like a bar fight. And then when one of the characters gets thrown against the window, I'm like, that would not happen in a movie. Then I remember that it did happen, and they put the porg lands on the side of the Millennium Falcon window, and I'm like, I just get flashbacks to how much I hate that, and I wish that was never in there. Like, I don't care that the porg's on the ship, but it hitting the window, I'm like, what is this? This is a Looney Tunes thing, so that always bothered me. But no, I think it's going to be fun, and I'm obviously going to continue to watch the show just because it is Star Wars, and we're going to pick up little nuggets along the way that is always debatable how important it is. But I like to picture the characters, or I try to picture the characters if this show was live action, and how important these characters are to the bigger universe. So I think that's always important to keep in mind. We are going to head into the Scoundrels Rundown. Wait, nope, he skipped it. We talked about all the things that we were going to cover in the Scoundrels Rundown. Earlier, when we were talking about New York Comic Con, it was just the books and the comics and stuff coming out. So we're just going to go straight ahead to Ask the Resistance. Lacey, what have you picked out this week?
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
All right, guys, it's time for Ask the Resistance. What do I say next, guys?
You say,
you know damn
let's
well
get
what
into
you
it.
say. You have it tattooed on your hand, probably.
We've got answers. So first is from the Pemberfoot at Pemberfoot, and they ask, if Infus Nest wanted the coaxium to help start a fleet for the future rebellion, what do you think Darth Maul planned to do with it? Was he planning on starting his own larger scale fleet for Crimson Dawn? I'm going to start first, because ladies first. I honestly don't think he was going to use it to fuel ships. I think he was honestly going to use it to sell to get money. I think it was his way of like getting money to back his criminal organization. What do you guys think?
Oh, I'm down with that. Yeah. I think if he was going to use it as fuel, it was not going to be for like massive ships. It was just going to be just like the day-to-day, and that's just a large supply of it.
Right.
Yeah, like Darth Maul used to get around on a
supply.
scooter, remember?
He got around on like a Star Wars Vespa.
Yeah, it was like a big wheel for Star Wars, and he just like, you know? It's like Mario Kart when you get shrunk. He's like, I'm Darth Maul. Yeah.
Okay, the next question is from Sean Santarude at Rude Cold. How rude. And he asks, so the big question is, will Sabine make an appearance in some form in the Jon Favreau The Mandalorian series? James, you're our Rebels guy. What do you think?
All right, here's my asterisk. It's always possible. It's always possible. They could do it. I'm not saying it won't, but here's my real answer. Absolutely not. And on top of that, this character is not Cobb Vanth. I feel like I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here, but you got to remember, you have to go into these shows assuming everybody's new. You can't say, oh, I think it's this person. I think Snoke is going to be Ezra. When has that ever panned out for us? It's never panned out. You get up.
So the
hopes.
Mandalorian is not Rey's dad, is what you're trying to say?
Oh my
Exactly.
gosh, please
Yeah.
stop. Oh my god. Oh no.
I know exactly. That's my point. You can sit here all you want and
Or
say,
Mom.
this is a perfect opportunity to bring in blank, and I think so and so is going to show up. Don't just go into the show absolutely assuming that every single character that is in the show is going to be new, and it's going to be all new stories. And then guess what? If somebody shows up that you recognize, it's a good surprise and you'll be really happy. Nobody's going to be proud of you if you called it, quote unquote. So, and I'm not saying this necessarily to Sean. I'm saying
James
it
Maney's
to
spicy tonight.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think that in general, like, nobody's going to be like, dang, that dude was right. Snoke was Mace Windu. Like,
Todd 3478 was right. He nailed it.
yeah, exactly. I
Todd's
think
listening and he's like, I didn't say
as
that.
a Star Wars fan,
I gotta look up that
yeah.
Twitter handle and see if it's a real guy.
As a Star Wars fan, we do ourselves a disservice if we try too hard to try to connect the dots and say like, oh, that character is totally this person. And the biggest one I saw this weekend was Cobb Vanth. I would be surprised if the stories that Jon Favreau has been writing for years involved a very minor character in Chet Wendig's Aftermath novel that isn't even in the main novel. It's in the like interlude section of that novel. Why do we all seem to think this character's Cobb Vanth? Now, I'll go back to the asterisk. It's possible. Maybe it is possible. Maybe Sabine will show up and that will be really cool. So
Asterisk the Resistance.
asterisk the Resistance. That's my answer though. I don't think that Sabine will make an appearance, but it'd be cool if she did.
I think that's a great answer. All right, moving on. We got Lane Casper at Lane_Casper, and he asks a super long question that had to have its own notepad. And
You know, you can add tweet Lane Casper. You can like push
What?
the little plus button.
Yeah, I had to bring it up. That's why I'm delaying right now. So he asks, so I was listening to at Star Wars Explains video, hey Alex, hey Molly, on the Last Jedi comic adaptation, and he posed an interesting theory. Force ghosts can't just appear when they want the person they want to talk to has to want to talk to them? I'm assuming you're saying they can't just appear unless the other person wants to talk to them, which could explain...
unless they're like requested.
Exactly. Which could explain why Anakin doesn't appear to Kylo, because he isn't asking for Anakin. He wants to talk to Vader. He said he wants sure. Hold on, coming back to this. He said I'm assuming it wasn't sure if that is really how it works, but the last issue made him think that could be how they work. I was wondering, what are your thoughts on this? John, I'm going to let you break this one down. So, he's saying, is it possible that Anakin, I'm assuming, could still show up in episode 9? I'm boiling this down to that's what I think that Lane's asking, maybe? Because he brought Kylo up, so that's the only reason, because we've talked about him showing up in 9, And the reason we said he wouldn't is because if he was going to show up in 9, he would have already shown up in 7 because Kylo, aka Ben Solo, was asking for Vader. So
Yeah.
Lane says, based on Alex and or Molly's theory, is that they only show up if they're asking for a specific person. So if he's asking for Vader, then Anakin would show up only if he was asking for Anakin. So what do you think on that? And then follow that up with, if this is true, could he show up in 9?
All right. So this is the most ridiculous question. Hard.
I actually love this question. I think it's
No,
because I
I
get
mean-
to hear myself talk, but
I mean, in terms of, it's pretty layered, and so my answer is going to be a little longer than I like to do these. But first off, my thoughts on this, Lane. I think Twitter should get an edit feature. I think you've showcased that for us here, buddy. But
or I just can't read, Lane, to be fair.
No, thanks for the question. I mean, Alex is like the guy, and so it's always like tough for me to be like disagree with his theories or anything. But in
He's
terms
the
of
Schmodown belt holder.
he's
Right.
a
Yes.
Star Wars trivia world champion, galactic champion. Yes. But what I will say is, can Force Ghost do they have to be like called to? I say no, and I feel like that's proven because Ben just appeared to Luke on Hoth. Luke wasn't calling for Ben.
Yoda
then
just
there were-
appeared to Luke on ŒThere.
Yeah, and then there were times when Luke was calling for Ben and Ben wasn't showing up. Like, Ben, why didn't you tell me? Ben, why didn't you tell me he was my father? And Kenobi was like, look, I told you I can't interfere, so I'm not answering this call. So that, I don't think
He
it's
just
that-
ignores him. He
Yeah.
ignores the call.
Yeah, exactly. And he dumps the call. But I do think there could be something on the line of they can only appear if you want to connect with them. That might there's something maybe real to that, which is quite possible. I know James loves this, huge Force Ghost guy. But for me, I don't want Anakin to show up, and I've beaten this like a dead horse because I really feel like his ending was too perfect at the end of Return of the Jedi. For him to come back just to give a little advice it isn't good for me here. I think Luke will pull that off, and obviously Kenobi's going to show up at some point too. We've talked about that. But ultimately, when it comes to the whole theory and how they connect and why they connect, I don't think I'm calling this Force Ghost so they answer. But I do think you have to be willing to receive the connection to talk to them in order for it to happen. They can't just be like, boom, here I am, and I'm in your face. Blah, 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 blah. You have to have some sort of connection or want to say, why did you do this? Or I have to talk, So I think that's where we're at. It is a little muddy, though, these days with the
Because
Force
that
Ghosts.
defeats my whole theory for 9 that Luke is just going to show up to Kylo if that's true.
Yeah, it makes that tricky. But Kylo may want to say something to Luke, like, I hate you, or, it may be ways for JJ to do that. It's very muddy, but we need the Force Ghosts because we need those people who are dead to come back one way or another. We can't all have time machines like Marvel. So thank you, Lane, and keep those questions coming. Good stuff.
Yeah, so we have one more question from Harawu at Harawu.
Woohoo!
Well done, sir, lady. And they ask, what are your Star Wars secret shames? Mine, I sob during the start of every new movie. I don't know why, but I think it's probably just the sheer emotion overload of getting a new Star Wars. So, James, I'm going to start with you. We're all going to answer this one. Do you have any secret shames or guilty pleasures when it comes to Star Wars or anything like that?
So I read this question, and that's how I took it, like a guilty pleasure, like something that you are affected and not very many other people are affected by. And since you mentioned sobbing in there, the first thing I thought of was when you guys teased me about how I get choked up whenever Jyn Erso goes back and gives the gun to K2SO. And that connection, it always gets me choked up because there's something about like that's his perfect thing to happen. And I don't know how she he didn't have any real respect for her, but every single time she continues to surprise him, and how real that robot is, you know. There's something about that moment just always makes me connect with. I think part of it too is like that's a very serious moment, and you know that the next moment is K2 dying. So it's like the last time that this person really has like a real response with anybody. And I'll be honest, I'm even starting to think about it right now. It's so
James,
crazy.
cry in the podcast.
So that's the thing is like
advertise this that you cried.
No. But that's the thing. No, it's like I think people would get choked up over that, but apparently it's just like, well, that's just like a random scene. Like it's a good scene, but it's not like I'm not going to get like affected by it like that. So that's the first thing I thought of when this question came up.
John, do you have any moments?
I don't know if I'm answering this right in terms of shame, but I'll go by Harawu's type of theme here with crying. Almost every time, especially the first couple of times I see the end of The Force Awakens with the Jedi steps, I cry. And I was, my dad was a military guy, and I always try to be tough, but I'm pretty sensitive. And that scene always makes me cry because I don't know, Rey's whole journey and everything, and that music is so GD beautiful. It's like, so yeah, I guess that would be my shame. I'll have to think of a better one. I really couldn't think of a secret shame of Star Wars. If I come up with a good one, I'll definitely tweet at Harawu and let you know.
Yeah, I had trouble with this one only because I can't remember myself getting choked up outside of like Twin Suns, but that's something that like everyone kind of gets teary for. Secret shame, like guilty pleasure. I really like the pod racing scene. I think it's super fun. Is it the best scene in Star Wars? No, but is it like just kind of silly and fun and exciting and reminds me of when I saw it with my dad? Yeah, it's cool. Crying. I'm trying to think of like crying outside of like Twin Suns because I always get emotional. I get emotional just talking about that scene. Probably
I think that's the thing is like when somebody says like, what's one of your favorite scenes from Star Wars? And you're like, oh, pod racing. They're like, pod racing? Really? Seriously? Like, I think that's kind of where the shame comes from. You're like, I don't really know if I want to tell
it's
them
not my favorite
scene is the
scene,
pod. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that's a scene that like you really enjoy that I think most people are just kind of iffy about.
Oh, it's so stupid. Yeah, I get it. But since we're on the thing of crying, which first of all, like I cry all the time, but probably there was something really emotional for me.
Wait till 9.
Don't start.
I didn't. I said wait till 9. You put the pieces together in your head.
I will most likely be seeing episode 9 with John, and if there is any moment that he dies, and I'm talking about Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo, aka my soft boy, I will openly weep in the theater.
Only if there's one moment when he dies? What if there's like 2 or 3 moments when he dies?
You know what I mean?
James.
Like, I don't know.
Right.
It's just thinking about it makes me like, my chest feels heavy right now. Like I'm tightening. My chest is, okay, I can't like breathe. It's just, there's something so tragic about Han Solo and Leia's son not coming back from the bad side. Can we not?
All
okay,
right.
so anyway, away from that.
I'm going to try to get that filmed on my phone, and by then we'll have a Patreon, and it'll be Patreon only to view Lacey sobbing live at Kylo Ren dying.
It's so tragic if the only son of Han Solo and Leia doesn't get his happy ending. Oh,
okay.
God. I can't even talk about it. Anyway.
Yeah.
So going back to Haru's question, probably when I was in the theater, I definitely got a little teary-eyed and emotional when Rey grabbed the saber, and because as a woman, it was the first time a female character had grabbed a lightsaber like that and was the main character of the movie, and you were like, oh my gosh, this is about her. This is about her journey. It's not about Luke. It's not about Han. It's not about Darth Vader. It's about her. And there's something really important in that. I got really choked up when Wonder Woman walked across the battlefield. Like, there's just something that seeing yourself in the movie theater and seeing someone that is a woman that is taking charge of a situation and owning it, it's just super powerful. I think that would be my answer.
Nice. That's not shame, though.
I know. I said my shameful thing was liking pod racing, but then this is like my cry thing.
Your cry thing. When you're speaking of Wonder Woman walking, it's like slow motion, right? She's
oh
like,
my
bing,
God. I
bing,
started crying
bing.
in the movie theater. Straight up crying.
I am glad they didn't do Rey catching the lightsaber in slow motion. That would have been pretty cheesy, I think.
Oh, yeah. No, I love how she does it fast and he has to like get out of the way of it.
Yeah, just like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. So, guys, thank you so much for your questions. If you want to be on the show, just shoot us a question at rb@SWNN or with hashtag AskTheResistance, and you'll maybe be on the show. We can read it. You can ask me what makes me cry all the time. I could tell you like everything. Or you can ask James about like what are his favorite books.
Because I read the Star Wars books.
And you like Rebels, and you like Star Wars. What James
Yep,
likes about Star Wars? That's a great question.
Because I
Someone
like
asked
Star
that.
Wars. I actually like Star Wars on this podcast.
Ask John how he's going to react when Chewie dies.
Jesus.
And then...
I can't wait till this bit dies.
Back to you, John.
All right. So, make sure you guys are subscribed to us, please. On iTunes, on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on Spotify.
You
Yeah,
can follow
there
us
it
on
is.
Spotify.
Yeah, get your Spotify on. We'll probably take a hit in our other mediums for reviews, but we know you'll be on Spotify listening to us anyway. For your first time listeners out there, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. More fun coming on Thursday with our next episode. In the meantime, head over to tpublic.com/user/resistance broadcast. We have 40 different designs of our podcast for you to check out. You can get on a t-shirt, a mug, a sticker, all sorts of things. A hoodie. It's hoodie weather where I am now, so check that out. We appreciate the support. Also, go to StarWarsNewsNet.com, our website for all of your latest news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. You guys can find me, John Hoey, on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and writing and editing over at StarWarsNewsNet.com. James Baney, how about you?
You can find me at Myra Trunks, MIRAHTRUNKS, on Twitter and Instagram. If you don't know what that is, it's actually a Dragon Ball reference.
Ooh. Wow. Lacey, how about you?
People can find me on Twitter at Lacey Gillerin, where I talk about Star Wars. I had 2 people from Lucasfilm tell me that Kylo Ren is my brand, so I've now taken that on. I've accepted it. I will do this proudly. So you'll probably get a lot of tweets about him. I also like to just talk about fun stuff, so feel free to chime in. Let me know how your day is. Yeah, that's basically it.
Double stuffed Oreos.
Oh my God, I've eaten so many Mickey Mouse birthday Oreos this weekend. Probably an inappropriate, disgusting amount, but they're delicious.
Are you a dunker?
No, I just ate them plain. I normally am, but no, they're just good normally.
Okay. I'm a dunker, but anyway. So that is it for this episode, but I hope you're still listening because we're going to tell you right now that on Thursday, we are going to do a Kessel Run, and if you don't know what that is, we give you a list of 12 things that the 3 of us put together, and this week, it is going to be, what is it this week? I forget, actually.
The things that we would show people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if someone has never seen or heard of Star Wars, what clip or scene or part from Star Wars would you show them and say, this is Star Wars? So we're going to give you our list of 12, and we're going to hear from you guys on what yours are as well. So enjoy your weeks, and we will see you guys Thursday morning right here on the Resistance broadcast. See you around, kids.